Hi, everyone. This is Adam Cherrington with KLAS Research. I am today's guest host for Millennium Live, and I am so honored to be with my good friend Crystal Broj from MUSC. Crystal, so great to see you.
So good to see you too. It's like we run into each other at conferences and now we get to talk again. So always good to have a chat with you, Adam.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, the pleasure's mine. I get to learn from you often, and so, well, this is a great chance to catch up, but also share with listeners the Crystal Broj story, the Crystal Broj at MUSC story. And I think we're both interested in sharing, hey, here's some things that are working. Here's some directional things that you and I are talking about that we're hearing from colleagues. And so I'd love to just jump right in. Can you
Good.
can you just tell a little bit about yourself for our listeners?
Sure. So everybody, I'm Crystal Broj. I'm here in Charleston, but I've only been here 2.5 years. I'm the enterprise's first chief digital transformation officer. Started as a team of one, grew that up through now we're almost a team of 8 or 9, I think, that are doing digital transformation for the university, in education and research and in the health system. Before I got here, I worked at North Shore University Health System on their digital team. Before that, I was a Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for the American Association of Diabetes Educators. But everything prior to that was other fields, not healthcare. I was in consulting, I was programming, I was business analysis, in manufacturing and health clubs, and a lot of other finance, insurance. So my background comes not from healthcare actually, but from other areas. And now I'm applying some of those basic core things that you do in business to the healthcare and educational arena.
I was not aware of that. Some of your background outside of healthcare, and that inspires a few other questions I'll get to. So,
There you
uh,
go. So I'll tell you a fun fact if you want to know. This
please,
you probably don't know either. During COVID, I wrote a series of children's books,
is that right? Wow,
wrote and illustrated them. So that's this just a little something that I wanted to add that you didn't know. But yeah, I was bored during COVID, so I wrote children's books.
that's amazing. Crystal, as a proud grandpa of two very young kids, I would like to talk to you how to acquire these books. So, we'll talk. We'll talk. I just want to mention my role here at KLAS. I oversee our digital health research, patient engagement, and I'm the vice president of patient voice. Been with KLAS for about 13 years, and my career passion has become listening to patients. How do we include them in perspectives? How do we make sure their voice is heard? I think one of the ironies in healthcare is we do so much for the patient, and then we say, "Well, they're going to love this. I don't even need to ask them." And so it's actually a joy to be a part of that. And you and I have talked many times about that process. You've given us great inspiration on things we should be researching to help you and your colleagues. So, really looking forward to this today. Um, Crystal, I want to just invite you to share a little bit about the journey at MUSC. As you mentioned, you're the first chief digital transformation officer. Talk about maybe past, present, future of that role and that need. Where have you been? Where are you going?
Yeah, so when I first came on, we started really looking first at digital front door. And so my first charge was other than to get acclimated into a brand new organization. And just for our viewers, MUSC has been here for about 200 years. We're serve all 46 counties in South Carolina. We have about 2.4 million patient encounters annually. We have 16 hospitals across the state, one of two centers of telehealth. So we were ready, well on our way to having lots of really cool technology in place. We're known for innovation. They really wanted to focus in this digital area. So my first job was to create a roadmap for our digital front door. We put together a 3-year plan that included, website as well as, all those things, because digital front door isn't just, our website, but it's also how we interact with people, patients digitally, how they find us, how we interact with them. And then how we do that, they call it phygital now, that between digital and physical spaces, before and after visits, right? So, and making sure that that whole patient experience all the way through is consistent, because we know we give good care when they come into our offices, but are we helping them find, are we helping them engage and then get to the right place, the right modality, the right time? And then are we following up and getting them additional care or helping them stay healthy? So we started out with a 3-year roadmap and started working with some companies to help achieve that. Notable was the first one that I was working with, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I think. But then that was like July, August. By November, this great roadmap, I have a plan, we're going along. And then all of a sudden this really weird technology came along called Chat GPT. And half my roadmap went out the window because we needed to start looking at things differently. And that's what happens in technology, right? Something new comes along. And so by December, we were doing an ambient listening pilot. And so we tossed some other things out the window and started focusing a little bit more. And that was sort of the beginning of turning not just for patients, but also to help the providers. Because as we know, there's a lot of burnout in our provider space and our care team members all across the organization, front of the house, back of the house. So then we started looking at how digital could help everyone. And so while my original roadmap didn't include things like rev cycle, now we are actually doing quite a few things to help the rev cycle people. And then the bottom line is that there's not enough workers in any of these areas to support the level of, they call it the silver tsunami now, that's coming in because we're all aging and there's more of us and there aren't, we aren't growing as many doctors or frontline workers or, people in the back office workers as can handle that. So we have to find automation and ways to do things in a different way to support the care that people need.
So many good things there. Um, a while back you shared with me an example of your digital transformation annual report. And I was so impressed with not just the organization of it, but the thoughtfulness of it. And you've talked about that a little bit. And what advice would you give someone going through that type of process or that effort to really come up with a plan?
I think you have to, first of all, technology is not just for technology's sake, right? So while you may have some, and I tell a story of a unicorn all the time, some boss or some chief in some department goes to a conference like we go to all the time, and they see a unicorn and they want a unicorn, right? And so they're like, my friends all have these, I want one, I heard this is the best thing, and they come back and it's like, but do you need a unicorn? Or do you need that technology? Is there a real pain point for it? Or is it just a shiny new thing that you want to have because everybody else has it? And then are you prepared to take care of a unicorn? Whatever technology that is, it could be a dozen different things now. And where is it going to live? Because if it has to attach to the horse barn, which in many cases is the EHR, are the EHR people, our farmers per se in this case, are they ready to help with the unicorn? Can you connect them with it? Is there a place in the barn for that? How is that going to work? And a lot of times the farmers are like, we don't want your unicorn. We don't want that in. We take care of horses. If you took better care of the horses, you wouldn't need a unicorn. Um, and there's many analogies I can pull there. But so I think you have to really know the pain point of what you're trying to solve before you bring in a unicorn, and then know how it's going to interact with the software that you currently have that's supporting your systems, because connectivity for these systems is really, really hard. And IT departments are really, really busy and they've got full-time everything. And then when you start bringing in new shiny things, it's hard to get all those integrations done to make it work seamlessly. And at the end of the day, when we talk about patient experience, I don't want a patient to go through and register in one software and get a notification from another software and have something else happen with another software. And every time it feels like they're jumping through a bunch of different tools and techniques, when it really should feel like this is MUSC all the way across the board and everything should feel seamless to them. And I think we're working towards that with white labeling of products and things like that. But there are still places where the transition is really seen and you can tell that, like, oh, now I'm going someplace else. And that isn't a nice experience for patients. And in some cases, it erodes trust. Because like, wait, I was on the website or I was here. Now this looks different. Is this really, or am I getting, am I going someplace that, somebody hijacked something? So you really have to be careful about your brand to make sure that, your patients feel safe.
I think that's an important point. If a patient enters a journey already half frustrated, oh my goodness, you emailed me, then you texted me, then you called me, and then I showed up and you asked me the same information again. Already the heart rate's up, the frustration level has grown, and so I think that's an important statement. Begins with trust and ought to continue there. So I want to take something you said and double click on that. You mentioned how the roadmap had to evolve overnight with the emergence of Chat GPT and other AI tools. So how do you adapt in that kind of world when in the minutes we've been talking, healthcare has already evolved. How do you stay on target during that kind of environment?
You have to pick what pieces you're really going to double down on. Some things are really new. I think as of this broadcast, end of March, agentic AI is something that's starting to be talked about a lot in organizations. But am I going to go out and buy something from an agentic AI company tomorrow and like stop everything I'm doing and roll that in? Probably not, because I don't have a specific use case for it. I don't have something that it makes a lot of sense to use it for now. In 6 months or so, it's going to be a lot more evolved, and it's going to be a better time to start evaluating some of those tools. But I have some priorities that I'm really trying to achieve to make a difference for our organization. I'm doubling down on patient access centers, and that goes for the back of the house when they're answering the phones. We've put on a voice bot so that we can cut down the times on that. Now the voice bot handles about 17% of those calls, so our agents can work on higher level calls and more difficult calls. I'm working on a front door, so our new website is going to allow people to schedule online. We're using a product called DexCare there. That goes live, I think, tomorrow. So you'll be able to see appointments straight up online. You won't have to log in. You won't have to have any passwords, and you'll be able to see the next available doctor for elbow pain if I've been playing tennis this week or something like that. And it has natural language processing in it. So I don't have to know that if I have elbow pain, I need to see an orthopedic. I can just type in elbow pain and it will show me all the orthos that, by the way, just do elbows. And it'll show me the first available. And I think stuff like that just makes the journey so much more special. So that's for patient access, just trying to get some of the work out and also to make it easier for patients. Also doing the same for revenue cycle, because even if you have an amazing experience all the way through an ambulatory encounter or a hospital encounter, when bill comes, if I don't understand it, if it doesn't get paid right, if I haven't had the right insurance applied to it, whatever I did to make me well, is that can make me sick, just thinking about the fact that I have to deal with the bill and it's wrong, or I have to
Yeah.
fight about it afterwards because I was sick. So we really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for revenue cycles so that if something's wrong, they can fix it. If we need to go back and do something but we're also doing prior authorizations in that space. So we can get that authorized quicker by using AI. And we're seeing really good results with the ones that we've started with. We've got about 40% of the imaging services that we send through the notable prior authorization coming back, being taken care of automatically without a human in the loop. They just are done. That process with a human takes 15 to 30 minutes. A bot can do it, an agent can do it in 30 seconds. So if we can cut down that work, then they can work on denial letters, on the more difficult authorizations, on things that get denied. And so that saves a lot of time, both for our work staff, but also for the patient, because if you can get your authorization quicker, you can get in to get treated faster. And then we're using AI in clinical trials and trying to match patients to trials. And then also taking that a step further, then we're going to start notifying doctors for trials that you might be aligned to, and patients with the data that they would need to know to ask their doctor about it. And then going further, we're focusing on population health and how we continue to keep the patients healthy with care gap closures and things like that. So that's kind of where my roadmap sits today. It's not just front door anymore, but it is focused on about 4 areas.
I like that answer. It feels like it provides some stability in such an unruly world that's changing by the minute. As I thought about this before our call, I thought organizations really need to be mission focused. And what are your objectives? What are the outcomes you're chasing? Make those very rock solid. And I would add consistent governance. If you're just looking at the latest unicorn, to use your analogy, there's got to be some structure with that. and so forth. So really like your answer. What I just learned from you, you got to be patient in this time as well. Um, there's definite FOMO happening. If I don't do this today, I'm going to be left behind. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you do that today, you might for you might miss what's next in 2 days. And so I think your answer and your advice is wise, Crystal. Be very patient, be mission focused, and that ought to align with whatever's coming tomorrow. A unicorn that flies tomorrow, whatever's next.
It
So
could be. You never know. And then the question is, even if it's there, do you need to fly?
yeah,
Are you good with just walking? Not every organization needs to fly and needs to have every whistle and bell and things like that. And some of that is we can afford it, right? Hospitals are very lean. So, we're trying to take care of patients. We're a rescue hospital system here in South Carolina. So, we're not going to buy every shiny gadget. We're going to make sure that we're taking care of things and being very wise stewards of that while we're keeping South Carolinians healthy.
yeah, I love it. Let's keep this unicorn and horse farm analogy going. So, to your point, do you even need to fly? As we have started to interview patients about their needs and expectations around technology, it's interesting to me how they still want the simplicity. They want the basic things. I'm thrilled to hear that you're focused on patient self-scheduling. That's a huge priority for patients. Simple communication with their clinician. Um, these are things that have always been a need, but are being emphasized when we put the microphone in front of the patient and say, where do you want to go next? So maybe a patient doesn't want to fly on a unicorn. Maybe they just want to walk in the forest, to your point. This is a good analogy. Maybe this is your next children's book, Crystal. So
It could be. It could be. I've used it a couple of times, and now I have get unicorn presents from people. But um, um, it's like my new collection. But the other thing is that what, technology. While 80% of people would rather interact with their health system with technology, it's not for everyone, and so we still have to keep in mind that there's going to be someone who just doesn't want it. They are not going to answer the text on the phone and send stuff back to that hospital system. I don't care. I want to call Sally in the office. She knows me. And that's that. And you know what? Sally might still be in the office, but she's not answering the calls in the call center anymore. So you
yeah,
can't get through to Sally, and that frustrates people. So they'll call and make their appointment. They're not going to pre-register online. They're going to come in and fill out the forms because that's what they've always done, and they're happy doing it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that either. It's
yeah,
okay, and we have to adapt to, yes, we can have technology, but there's always going to be people that like to do it a different way for any number of reasons. Maybe they don't feel comfortable, maybe they're not literate, maybe it's in a different language, and we have to accommodate those things as well. So while digital is great, and obviously I make my livelihood on digital, we still have to make sure that as we transition in different in modalities, that we're serving all of our patients.
I think that feeds the principle of trust that you've already brought up. If you connect with me in a way that I need and want, I know that my provider has my back, and they're interested in me. They know me. To your exact point, we are in the middle of our next iteration of a consumer survey where we're asking broadly patients, hey, what's working in healthcare? What do you want to see next? Um, what would you change? And I sent this survey out recently on social media, and my wonderful mother, Kay Cherrington, I'm going to give her a shout out. She told me last night, I filled out your survey as a patient. I want to talk to somebody live. And I said, okay, thank you. Love the perspective. So I know you're right, Crystal. I know there's people that have different perspectives. I'm probably at the other end of the spectrum. I want to text and I want to get what I need quickly. And then if I need to escalate something, yes, I want to talk to somebody live at that time. But the scheduling, the communication, the bill pay, let's automate that. Let's make it. You talk about unicorns, I talk about Chick-fil-A. Let's make it like Chick-fil-A. I want
Absolutely.
that simplicity.
Yeah, and I think that 80% or something like that of people that handle healthcare are women, and a lot of women work now. So when are our call centers open when you can talk to live people? 8 to 5. Well, if I'm at my job all day, I don't have time to call the call center to change an appointment or do something else or whatever. So then I have to call after hours and then I have to wait for a call back. And then I'll get a call back and it's like, oh, I could see somebody at 3 o'clock tomorrow, but then I have to call back again. And that phone tree back and forth, that doesn't work for me as a busy mom, right? So then, we have to look for other modalities. Or I'm busy, I'm sick, but I still have to work, but I need to see somebody. So how do I get an appointment where I can see somebody, but I don't want to drive a half an hour park and then go into the building, so letting people know that, oh, you can see Dr. Smith virtually, or you can go online to our Get Care Now page and do a text visit with our providers and get, stuff for something simple like a cold or allergies or pink eye or whatever. And you don't even have to go into a doctor's office. You can just do it online now. So, that's for the part where meeting people where they are is really important in that digital journey.
I love it. We're living in the future. I love it. Let's keep going. So you've told me recently about ways that you involve patients' perspectives in some of this roadmap development and digital transformation. Would love to ask you to share a few examples. How are you involving patients? What are some examples of adjustments you've made based on that?
We have done a couple of times patient surveys across the state, not just our patients, but just people of South Carolina, to see, what their perspective is on various technologies and things. I think one was even a KLAS survey that was just, how, what are people thinking about, certain technologies and using technologies. But we also have a very active patient family access committee. There's actually 12 different ones for different business lines, from children's to adult and so on. And so we actually present technology to them. They meet maybe once a quarter. Our team goes and presents of, hey, we're thinking about this. We're working on this. What do you think about that? And get their feedback as well. So, and what else? What problems are we not solving? Or what have you seen that, we wish we had? Those kinds of things. But also on a lot of our experiences, we're very lucky that inside the software, we put in a loop for the patient. So if you pre-register with our Notable product, at the end of the experience, you can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down as a patient. And happy to say that we get 97% of people give us a thumbs up, but we also get a lot of comments, thumbs up or thumbs down, to let us know what they like or they don't like. And that's been unbelievable feedback. And we read it all. Our team reads it all. And so there have been things like, oh, I come to the office 3 times a week. I don't need to get 3 texts. You're asking me the same questions. Why are you asking me so many times? So we went and worked with the program, and now we send one text out on Sunday and you can check into all your appointments one time. We changed it into Spanish so people could talk about it in Spanish. They could do it in Spanish from their home. We other things that people bring up, like, well, this isn't working, or this, I don't understand how this is, to change the screens that we're doing so they're clearer, more identifiable with patients. So a lot of that experience. The funny thing about healthcare is we are all also patients, but we also bring a bias to that. That's like, well, this is how Crystal would want it. This is how Adam would want it. But that doesn't mean every Joe and Sally in South Carolina wants it that way. So it's really important to engage the patients. But this is probably one of the few fields. I mean, yeah, we all bank too, and we all ride on airplanes. So maybe they would have, like, we're consumers of those things. But in healthcare, you really have to look at all different types of populations and we don't have all of those experiences.
Well, I could not agree more. I think too often we say, well, I'm a patient, so I know what they all want. And you are spot on. It's different by race, gender, ethnicity, income, language preference, age. There's so many variables there. And by starting to ask the question, we've been able to start challenging assumptions that we tend to make. Here's one example. Often we tend to say, well, older patients won't use technology. They won't do that thing. When in reality, we've learned they are some of the highest adopters of technology, and they rate it higher than other age groups. And so I find that fascinating, that just by asking the question, we're going to learn things that we might have assumed otherwise. So really love that comment. I would love to hear maybe some ideas. Let's go back to before healthcare for Crystal Broj. you came out of consulting and you did things in construction and some of you said some business analysis. What are some things that you learned there that you've been able to implement within healthcare that might surprise us or be of interest?
Yeah, so I worked in a health club environment. So tennis pros, swimming pros, one of those high-end health clubs that I adore in Chicago Midtown. And there I learned, that, I come in as tech girl and I'm like, okay, so we're gonna give you this computer system so that you can track all your appointments and you can do all this stuff. And when you're done giving a tennis lesson, you can just come up to the computer screen and schedule the next visit with this, your tennis pro or whatever. And tennis pros are not computer people. They're hired for a skill, how to teach tennis, and they're amazing at it, but they may not be that computer thing, or they may be a little bit, but not much. And so they don't want to use that in front of their clients if they're not comfortable. We did the same thing for sales pros. We did, how you sign a contract at a health club. And so you do that. Well, we put it on a tablet. And in the tablet, we also put videos because in a health club, it's not busy all day long. So if you want to know what the Zumba class looks like at 6 o'clock at night, but you're there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we can show you a video of what it looks like, right? That's an amazing thing. But the sales pros are worried that the iPad's going to run out of juice halfway through, or that they click on the wrong button and then they're going to look dumb. And nobody wants to do that. Everybody's really good at their jobs, right? So, but they don't want something that's going to make them uncomfortable or nervous or whatever. So you really have to work on that change management. And I think I bring that to healthcare more than anything else is, telling people why they're doing things, telling people how to do it, changing the process, because people, process, and technology. Technology is the easy part, really. It's, explaining the what's in it for them on the people side, and then also, what the process is or how the process is going to change because of technology. So take that into healthcare, and we go to ambient listening. So we did a pilot with Nuance DAX, and we had 125 providers come through. And, we created, great communication, all the things you're supposed to do for change management. We created beautiful newsletters. We had meetings. We did stuff. Say, okay, this is coming. This is it. Boom. And we sent them, and we started sending, to increase engagement, we'll send a newsletter every week. Well, busy providers don't read their emails. So it didn't matter how pretty our newsletters were, that doesn't work. So we had to figure out different ways to engage those folks so that they could feel comfortable. And how do we support them? Is it better to have a Teams chat open so they can send something anytime? Do we have a mailbox? What do people want? Because different providers wanted different things. And being able to meet them where they are. And, ambient listening is not for everyone. Some people are so good at Epic that they can do Epic without ambient listening. And some people just resist the change. So they don't want to do it, and they're not going to do it until it's proven, whatever. But we did a pilot for a year. When we finished the pilot, we decided we're going to let any provider use DAX this year. And we're getting ready to start our waiting list. We have 600 doctors on the waiting list for DAX right now because they've seen it. But it took a year to get that all the way through so that people could see the true value of it. But when you take in, it's like 30% reduction in pajama time, and we're closing charts over 30% faster. There's some real value in that for like almost bringing joy back to their work. And so those are wins, but those are things that I learned way back when I was a little business analyst coming up into this, that, you really have to work on that change management and help people where they are.
Wonderful comment. That came out in our research on patient self-scheduling as well. To your comment about the technology might be the easy part, some of those things have been around for a while, but it is truly about teaching the why and getting people to understand how it can help. Really, really insightful. So as we start to wrap up, I'd love to hear, where are you going next? What's top of mind and coming down the road for you?
I think we're gonna start to double down some stuff on population health, where we're going to expand the work we're doing there, more care gaps, more ways to look at data and try to provide more value there. We're trying to automate more in for access reasons for our revenue cycle, from denials and other pieces there, underpayment appeals. We just launched a financial assistant chatbot for people that actually need help paying their bills and figuring out if they qualify for financial assistant. So that's a new and exciting thing. We put it up on the website last week. We've had 156 people actually go to that bot and ask questions. And that's a natural language bot too. So really excited about that. And then when we were at, Vive and Health, there was a lot of talk about ambient listening, but it's not just for providers anymore. This fall, we'll start on one for nurses. But when Microsoft was on stage, they said, you know what, in 2 to 3 years, ambient's going to be used so much more than it is today in so many other assets of business. And so I'll be watching that very closely to see how that pans out.
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, Crystal, I want to give you a chance to share any final thoughts, any last words, any parting items of wisdom. Um, I've learned a lot here, and I'm so appreciative of your time. But any final things you want to share with our listeners today?
I think we hit on a bunch of things. I think it's patience, and give yourself some grace when you do these things. Start small and then extend it out so that you can adjust along the way. But the second, patience is what we're doing it for, right? And to make that access easier, because most of the time they're coming when it's a scary time in their life. So you want to make sure that they feel really comfortable in what they're doing. I've never met a more passionate group of people than people that work in healthcare. And even if we're in technology, the whole point is, what is the end point of that game, right? And that is to make people be healthier. And so it's I'd say patience and patience, as you transform what you're working on next.
I love it. The passion is real. I agree. There's an abundance in healthcare. Yes, we might have competitive goals, but at the end of the day, we're trying to improve healthcare together. So I really love that, and I appreciate your abundance and sharing your wisdom here today. So, um, Crystal, thanks so much. So good to see you, my friend. Thank you for your expertise and willingness to share. I feel comfortable offering your LinkedIn access. You connect with the community very well. I'm also available on LinkedIn. But for Crystal Broj and Adam Cherrington, thank you for listening. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, everybody.